STARVIEW Court and Museo May Affordable Housing and Isle House, a market-rate housing project, were built on Treasure Island's radioactive soil. A Toxic Tour by Carol Harvey, investigative reporter, Saturday, April 13, 2024. These three housing projects were constructed in 2022 in the footprint of former Naval Station Treasure Island's Starburst Barracks. The Navy's Starburst Barracks occupied the space at the Red Circle in 2014, but were demolished in 2016 to make way for the island's redevelopment. STARVIEW Court was built in the exact same spot and named after the Starburst Barracks. This Google map shows STARVIEW Court and Museo May Affordable Housing and Isle House, a market-rate project, superimposed over a map of the old Starburst Barracks, which was demolished in 2016, and near the Great Lawn, which is now a construction zone. Here are the Starburst Barracks on Friday, July 1st, 2016, after the trees are cut down. I've done a lot of videoing of the Starburst Barracks, and always I'm so sad to see that the trees have been taken out. It was beautiful when the trees were there. Walking under those trees, you can see the way the light shines and the shadows of the trees. It was a lovely walk. These were the Starburst Barracks on Tuesday, April 15, 2014, before they cut down the trees. This is what it looks like in the Starburst Barracks. Monday, January 26, 2015. A year and a half before the trees were cut down. Notice the intensity of the wind. There's a sculpture of Bliss Dance in the distance. Forward again to Friday, July 1st, 2016. So let's sit on one of these benches up here, and I'll tell you about the Starburst Barracks. It's radioactive. Sit down. See the tree stumps over there? Sad tree cemetery. See all the tree stumps in there. That part of the walk was particularly beautiful with the shade from the trees. Not anymore. And they're going to tear down the Starburst Barracks soon. When they tear that thing down, I don't want to be on the island because the contaminants, the asbestos, the mold that's going to be flying everywhere, I don't know whether they're going to try to contain it. In fact, residents did complain they got sick from the toxins blowing around in the high wind. That used to be Casson Hall. I imagined, sailors coming out of there in the morning and walking under the trees. That must have been phenomenal for them. So pretty. And they're Starburst Barracks because they have 6 arms. They look like a starburst from above. They're like an asterisk. So, what's the history here? The USS Pandemonium 1 was actually a building the Navy constructed to look like a ship where they trained sailors. It was landlocked on the southern part of the island where the Navy later built homes along Gateview Avenue. To handle nuclear attacks, sailors were trained to wash cesium-137 radiation from the deck of the Pandemonium into the soil at Gateview Avenue, where Pandemonium 1 was first built. Sailors also brought back to the barracks on the Great Lawn radiation on their shoes and clothes. In the 70s, they took that fake ship that was a building that they used to wash the radiation off of, and they moved it around to the opposite side of the island. If we could follow the sight of the camera all the way to the other end of the island, we'd be looking straight at where they put the building when they moved it, and they called it Pandemonium 2. The USS Pandemonium 2 on the north side of the island. And they continued to use it as a training operation for washing radiation off the hull into the soil and the groundwater. By that time, they had torn down the barracks on the Great Lawn here. The Navy had other barracks in this spot before they built the Starburst barracks here. And the sailors that came back from doing their day's work at the Pandemonium 2 came to the Starburst barracks, which they had built by then. The barracks that were on the Great Lawn in the 40s and 50s, they tore them down, and then in the 60s and 70s, they had the Starburst barracks. And the same thing happened. They dragged the radiation back to the Starburst barracks on their shoes, on their clothes, and they lived there. So those buildings not only are full of asbestos and mold, they're also radioactive. Nobody's ever attended to that in the Navy RAB meetings. No one's ever mentioned it. No one has ever, to my knowledge, scanned it with Geiger counters. On the same day, Friday, July 1st, 2016, I walked down to 9th Street, turned right on Avenue B, and shot this footage of the end of the barracks. I was standing here at the Avenue B bus stop. I did this for a sailor who contacted me and said he'd been assigned to the barracks in 1969. He was angry about his adenocarcinoma, lymphoma, colon cancer, and a son born with birth defects. He attributed this to the time he lived in the radioactive Starburst barracks. He said, "I was assigned to the southernmost of the two Starburst barracks, top floor, second from the end, with a view of Alcatraz, the Golden Gate, and parts of San Francisco. Until February of 2016, I thought it was heaven. I now realize I was stationed in what is quite possibly radioactive hell." So I took him back to the scene of the crime. We're on the corner of 9th Street and Avenue B. I am videoing the Starburst barracks for you. I would like to show you the state of the building you lived in. And there's your wing. And there's your window. Looked out that window, that beautiful bay, and you had a special room. Got that room because you knew the quartermaster, is that what you call them? And by the way, they have confirmed there is radiation in that building. But you're living very close to a bunch of other things. In the same area, we've monitored dioxins, we've monitored benzene, and actually, I call this Cesium Park, because the Navy has come clean about the fact that there was Cesium-137 in this ground. Jump ahead to 2024. Our car is parked at the Red Star. The same view of the community was shot on Wednesday, March 12, 2014. Now in 2024, Mercier Restaurant occupies a space close to 9th Street. The bulk of the space is a huge construction zone. 10 years ago in 2014, the Starburst barracks were behind us. In 2014, I'm walking past the Starburst barracks toward what became the Mercier Restaurant parking lot in 2024. In April 2014, I'm new to the island and just finding my way around. I'm luxuriating in a beautiful day. These buildings are not being used for anything. I did not realize that in 2016, 2 years later, they were slated to be torn down. They have beautiful trees flanking them. Some very eager gulls flying over my head. Actually, those were crows. And what would appear to be a neighborhood down here. Just on the other side of this road. I soon found out that this road was 9th Street, one of the major arteries bisecting the island from the San Francisco side of the island to the Oakland-Berkeley side of the island. Ninth Street was also the dividing line between the Navy's administrative side of the island to the east toward Clipper Cove, and the community of townhouses the Navy built for sailors and their families on the southwestern end of the island. is the Golden Gate Bridge on the other side of that tree. I am shooting across what was known then as the Great Lawn. It's now a huge construction zone. Jump forward in space several hundred feet and forward in time 10 years to Saturday, April 13, 2024. On our toxic tour, we're sitting in the Marseille restaurant parking lot facing the 9th Street Dog Park and the Golden Gate Bridge. From this vantage point, only a few of the Navy's community of townhouses can be seen. All the dwellings sit on dangerous levels of radiation, weapons-grade chemicals, and heavy metals that the Navy left in the soil during the 60 years it conducted schools to teach sailors how to deploy violently poisonous weapons. It's easy for the residents to deny the presence of toxins because they are invisible. The Navy says they're cleaning up the mess. However, the poisons are impossible to remove completely. When the Navy finally raises the townhouses, the released toxins will imperil everyone on the island. In order to redevelop Treasure Island and sell expensive condominiums, the Treasure Island Development Authority, TIDA, is covering the soil with a dirt cap that will inevitably break down and expose the deadly contaminants. The driver waits for the white car to enter the Marseille restaurant parking lot before she begins to turn gradually to the left. She passes the entrance to Marseille restaurant. She faces the construction zone with Yerba Buena Island in the distance. To the left is STARVIEW Court, to the right is Isle House. STARVIEW Court and Isle House are in the same neighborhood, but the communities they house will be very different. Isle House is the first market-rate residential tower on former Naval Station Treasure Island in San Francisco Bay. It is a 250-unit, 22-story high-rise with a central courtyard on the lower level. The development will include 250 homes, studio apartments, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, a cafe, live-work units, a fitness center, roof deck with grilling and seating, skyline views, and lounge areas for remote working and relaxation. STARVIEW Court is very different from Isle House. STARVIEW Court at 78 Johnson Street is a 7-story, 138 apartment residence housing a multicultural population. People of color, indigenous, black, Hispanic, Asian, seniors, people with disabilities, and low-income workers. After the Maceo May Veterans Building, it is the second affordable building constructed for Treasure Island redevelopment. The building is targeted to Catholic Charities households and to Villages at Treasure Island households, both currently on the island. It is built around a large closed courtyard here under construction and completed here. Amenities include a community room with a shared kitchen, fitness room, bicycle parking only, and terraces with San Francisco views. It offers no parking spaces for cars that residents need to drive on and off the island to hospitals, their kids' schools, or for food. Residents I've spoken to consider this a step down. They have to dump a lot of their furniture because the units are too small. In the spring 2024 tour of STARVIEW Court, people were shown a unit other than the one they'd move into.
This is the 3-bedroom unit.
He did not plan to move into a 3-bedroom unit.
That's the hallway closet. This is the master bedroom. This is a half bath. They get more room for a half bath than they do anything else. This is the 1.5 bath for the 3-bedroom.
She's pointing out bad planning. The bedrooms are small and the half bathrooms are huge by comparison.
I don't think a king-size bed will fit in here. The rooms are very small.
Residents are charged more for less space.
I am going to ask for the square footage. We were told that we were supposed to be getting similar units. And I don't know if this is going to be the same, Rick. I guess that's what the heating is.
Will that tiny heater heat an entire apartment?
Each window would have to be accessible for me, just access to connect my air conditioner for my respiratory problem. There's no living room in there. Where are you going to put the dining room table?
They have no dishwashers or washers and dryers for laundry. The shared laundry room is not depicted in the ads. Residents can't step out of their apartments into a front yard with grass like they could when they lived in the Navy's townhouses. And finally, just as with the Navy's townhouses, the ground under STARVIEW Court is radioactive. Let's go. We're exiting the Marseille restaurant parking lot and making a right turn onto 9th Street. This is the dog park, and beyond that, we're looking at the community, and under every single one of the houses in that community, there is radiation. We pass the Avenue B bus stop at the Red Star. Later, I might tell you about the radiation if you ever want to know.